welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're bringing you a Kickstarter preview of Forges of Ravenshire, a brand new game coming from BA Games. West, we just got done spending the last 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, we literally played this back to back.
Like just sitting on camera, having fun.
A great time.
We finished the first game, and I just looked at you and I went, "Hey, how do you feel about staying up till 2 a.m.?
Right, and
because I want to sit down and I want to play again.
Right, because you know a game is great when you're playing it and you have a different strategy you want to try.
And you're like messing with it
right away, and you want to try to break it, but have a good time playing it. That's what we did.
Yeah. So
great.
Okay. Overview caveat, if you go swing over and watch the gameplay videos that we did, we actually had Samuel Stockton, one of the designers, one of the publishers. This is a small indie publishing company. They've produced some other games. They've delivered them to backers. This is their newest project. This is not a sponsored video, but we were very happy and excited to have him up here to help us get this to the table as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And in this video, we want to give you an overview of how this plays, break down in about 8 minutes, you know, the general framework that you need to pay attention to. Encourage you to go check out the Kickstarter page. There's going to be linked at the top of the video description because I'm sure there's going to be cool things over there for you to see. And honestly, this is a good, if you're looking, if you enjoy dice placement, if you enjoy a little bit of like Tableau, like production engine building, and if you like a bit of resource management, this is a really big contender.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're looking at about 20 minutes per player. Most of our gameplays, especially once we were up and running, were right around just over that 1 hour mark.
Yeah.
Very, very easy to like get someone integrated into this.
Yeah,
it's about mid
quick.
to lightweight in terms of the general weight of the game.
Yeah.
With enough Euro kind of crunchy goodness that I still wanted to dive back in for more strategies. And I'm already begging him for more like custom little modules. I want to see other little floating boards off to the side. I want more things that I can craft. Like, there's so many different ways that this company can continue playing within this system. So I want to see them do well because I honestly want to see more and more of Forges down the line. West.
Yes.
Let's give them an overview of what this game is. Let's go over kind of the general flow, the general format of Forges, and then let's talk about some of the highlights. Let's talk about what it actually feels like to play, so they have a good sense of what they can expect if they do decide to back this.
For sure. So, of course, we start with theme, and we are anthropomorphic little guys going through and becoming the blacksmith of the area, and we are
a giant stone dragon has actually flown down into this little hamlet village.
Yes.
He consumed the last blacksmith who thought that he could harvest the resource from inside the guttural entrails of that dragon and turn it into the greatest weapon that has ever existed. Sadly, for the last forge, who happened to be a very handsome bunny rabbit, or hare, as they like to be called, he never came back. So we are the next era, the next generation of potential forgers. And we have a lot of different characters. You can see some of the, I'm going to spill things as I do this, but like, we have a beautiful little raven here.
We have a pine marten here.
I played as a dual team, which is going to be the son of that famed hare blacksmith.
Along
and also
with the trash panda.
Best friend trash panda. And so you have all these little custom little characters. You have the badger, which I'm sure people have already seen. And we are working to actually become the next primary blacksmiths of this hamlet. You see, the way that you do it, every season, right around fall, a new wave of adventurers journeys through this portion of land. This is a pretty peaceful area, actually. But there is
a very kind area.
Far in the range, you know, far on the horizon, there's a mountain range that is covered with all the despicable ideas that you could imagine. So you're an RPG player, you're journeying through, you've got all the necromancers, and of course the peak of that is going to be the stone dragon. And with the word coming forth, the stone dragon is terrorizing this landscape.
He's sending down the stone golems?
Yeah, so we actually have a group of people that are journeying through in mid-fall, and we are preparing all the weapons, the armor, the shield that they need. And whoever has, at the end of the season, once winter hits, the most cash on hand, the most resource, you now become the designated chief blacksmith of this village moving into the next year.
Yeah, you get to win.
Yeah, you get to, I mean, there's not enough infrastructure to support or inherit the entire blacksmith shop. So they've established a competition. That's the general theme. Let's break into what the format of this game is.
Okay, sounds good. So
if you can't tell, I like the theme.
He does like the theme. So the idea is that you're going to have 3 dice on your board, you roll them, and then you're going to place them, and based on the placement, you'll get the results of the resources that are on your particular board. The next thing you're going to do is then take a different die, not the one that you've placed, from either the same area or a different area, and then you'll get those resources as well. Now you also will have the guilds here on your player board, and that dice that you took off of the mat will then go onto your player board, and you'll run that guild, and you'll get all the things that are listed in that guild area here on the side. So you'll have the opportunity, say this green one here, you'll get all these different resources. And this is your engine, but you're building 3 separate engines within this. And then once you've placed all of your die and everyone's had their turns, then you're going to go to your actual forge and start creating the amazing weapons, shields, and armor pieces that you're making for the denizens of the area.
Yeah, it uses dice, which is in actually, I think, a very cool way. It's a simple system, but dice are used in a variety of different ways here. First off, you're going to have kind of the Raiders of the North Sea style dice placement. I place a die, I get an action, I take a die, I receive an action.
Exactly.
But then depending on the color of die you took or received, you're going to be then placing it down here. So the number no longer matters, which is going to be the first thing that triggers the resources that you get. Now it's going to be the color that you drew back. And then after that, you're going back to the point where you need to be able to manipulate and keep the numbers that you actually drew back onto your board before you roll them in this final production phase here, because the numbers start to matter again on that last area where you're trying to actually turn wood into charcoal, charcoal and ore into steel. You're trying to craft your leather pieces together and just finish up the products that you're creating. I like that there's about 4 unique uses for each die that I'm taking in this game.
Absolutely.
It's simple and straightforward. There's not a lot of overhead, but I find myself puzzling through the next 2 or 3 actions for every in particular die that I have. And the game gives you enough dice mitigation that you can control for bad rolls. You can control for just being in a position where there's just not really a good die to take. However, it costs you something. It costs you that resource. It costs you your ability to manipulate die in the future. I find that really satisfying.
Absolutely. It really is.
Okay, so overview of that. This is going to last for 4 rounds. How does the end game scoring actually work? What are the areas that you're looking for to close off this game?
So as you're moving forward, you're going to be advancing here across the reputation track. That equals additional money at the very end. As you're creating these different pieces, you'll see that there's a value at the bottom here, and that is how much you're going to sell those particular items for. Once you get that, then you'll take those additional pieces, that money anyway, and then you'll have the ability to put all of your money together at the end, and whoever has the most wins.
Well, and you also are going to have some in-game scoring objectives that you might be going for. Things like building, being a shield right, who's able to build 5 shields throughout the course of the game, or a exceptional craftsman who's able to craft some of the higher level ability cards, which are locked behind these star plinths here.
You just have to use that word every time, don't you?
Star pillars? Is that a better word?
It's not even a pillar. There's no stone pillar here. For those of you who don't know, a plinth is the big square piece that's on the bottom of a column. It's the big square piece on the bottom of a column. It's like the footing, if you will. And this Yahoo over here says plinth for everything because you know it drives me nuts. It's a terrible word. It shouldn't be in the English language.
So they're going to be hidden behind some of these scoring objectives, and they're going to cost a lot more resources to do. We're not even sure, West and I, if the higher level ones, the exceptional ones, are worth the amount it takes to do them, and yet we still try, and for some reason doing them still generates and elicits enough points that it does seem worth it. True. But there's a lot of resource that it takes. So I'm going to go over very quickly some of the stuff that for me I enjoy when it comes to the experience of playing this game. I already mentioned the dice. I like the 4 different uses for each one of the dice I'm interacting with. I like the rolling. I like the placing. It's a very satisfying engine. It's not necessarily innovative. There are other games that do this system. But every time I've played those games, I've always said to myself, I like this. I would like more games to do this. And so we're sitting here in front of a game that's just playing with a system that I already just viscerally enjoy. On top of that, I actually find this part and this part really satisfying. I'll explain why. First off, ignore my board because one of my special abilities has completely shattered where I'm supposed to play things. But all of these little production pieces here are actually purchased throughout the course of the game. They cost you gold, which is your victory points at the end of the game. So you're making a decision as to how much return on investment you can get and at what point you decide to do that. If you notice, I spent quite a bit on my actual infrastructure down here. But because I'm going to be triggering these every round, I actually lock them into place, purchase them from the map here, lock them into place down here, and then I can create these little sequenced production chains. However, if I've heavily invested in green, and then there's no green left on the board for me to take, I'm in a position where I have to think on my feet and adjust or adapt, or maybe have a little bit of invested in purple, and you can look around the table and you can kind of kite or avoid giving other players what they want, or at least avoid placing dice of the color that they want in the location that would be advantageous to them as well. It's not quite take that, but I did find myself glancing over at West's board and trying to make sure I didn't help him out. I liked that. I enjoyed that. I thought that was fun. And I like just getting resources. It feels good, and every time you build out your engine, you have a new thing that you're playing with.
Very true.
Over here, this is a fun little puzzle, and it's deceivingly simple. Yeah, the basic of it is you have wood. Wood can convert into charcoal. You get a bonus depending on what die you played there, and you get however many you choose to convert.
Correct.
I like that I get a bonus based off die when I activate the resource, and based on the number, again, it's that whole dice thing. Then charcoal and ore combine into steel.
Yep.
It's nice, a little bit more expensive, harder to get many items and weapons needed, and again, I get a bonus based off the die that I use to trigger that. And then wood and leather are going to be the two resources that are wood, leather, and ore are going to be the three resources that are harder to come by if you need them in combination. Those are going to be things that you want to be generating from your production engine. Where I find this so satisfying, though, is the fact that I have 3 dice to use when I go over here to this section, and there's a lot of ways to actually manipulate this track beyond what you initially think, and it feels really good to solve this puzzle. It's not breaking my brain, but I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, I need to build, a shield and a sword, and I need 12 ore, and I need like 12 ore and 16 wood, and I just don't have it on my map, and it's been very hard to generate that. Well, up across the top row here, I could run one of my production engine again. Maybe I've built that perfectly to give me the resources that I need. Maybe some of the stuff I'm lacking. I could go ahead and generate some mild resources here, but if I do it in the right area, if I generate, for instance, some ore, and I already have the embers that I need, or I have wood that I can turn into ember, suddenly I have a combination that allows me to catapult this into steel, because I get a bonus every time I activate those 3. So I found myself linking these 3 dice into a little snaking sequence that allowed me to actually combine and build things that I initially thought at the start of that round I would not be able to construct.
It's an engine with a mitigation strategy, because a lot of times when you have an engine, there's a piece that's always broken, and this allows you, using these dice at the top, to fix that piece that's broken.
West, experientially, thoughts, overview?
You didn't talk about the drafting mechanism that's going over here, where you can cycle through the deck very quickly, which I really also enjoy.
Do you like a bit of take that?
I do like a bit of take that, so hate drafting is always exciting for me.
And people hate drafted you.
And people who shall not be named significantly hate drafted on me, but it was fun. That's part of the game. And, getting the opportunity to cycle through that entire deck using the mechanisms that are available is also very satisfying.
Yeah. So, at the end of the video, I feel like we've been aggressively positive on this, which is both fair, and also we like indies. We like projects that are trying to do cool things. We like projects that are trying to do good production quality, do a reasonable cost, and make a successful board game in an industry that is sometimes very brutal and very cutthroat. That being said, if you've watched to this point, I already assume you're interested in likely backing this. So let's give any caveats or any warnings that people might need for that final decision point, right? Because my goal is always to have as many people as possible buy this game. And no one who's not going to like this game, buy this game. Both those things are true. I want to share this with people, but I don't want to sell it to people who this isn't their type of game. So right off the bat, I think one of the top level things for me,
luck with the dice.
That wasn't okay. You can talk about that. I have no problem with the dice.
I mean, in general, dice. I mean, one of the things that some people don't like are dice. If you don't like dice and you don't like having to roll them and worry about quote unquote luck, you're going to have some luck here. You have mitigation strategies, ways that you can get around it, and there's lots of different things that you can do with those dice on the board. But if you just hate dice and you hate hate the option of sitting there, I can't do what I want to do because of this, I think you'll find that there's a lot you can do. But dice is an issue that some people get frustrated with.
I think one of the main things I would point out personally is that this is a game that is deceivingly simple and easy to play. And I think the way that you actually go about finalizing and scoring points and cutting people off to some of these objectives or hate drafting some of those or solving this puzzle and thinking 2 or 3 turns ahead with every single dice that you're using doesn't make it too complex.
Right.
But it does mean that the skill that's necessary to play this and be victorious might be a little bit harder than it is to get this game to the table. It's one of those where if I am good at this type of puzzle and other people just enjoy this type of puzzle, this is one where I could actually take a pretty significant lead by being
very quickly,
familiar with it or being a little bit quicker on my feet.
I think there's also some potential for analysis paralysis. If you're one of those who's trying to maximize every single move, this could take significantly longer than it needs to take. I think what makes this game fun is the fact that it is quick and you don't have to sit there and worry over every single move.
And then I think the last thing that I would note is that 20-minute per player playtime really rests within the area of people who are able to do a bit of simultaneous play. There are moments here where you're running your own production engine. There's moments here where you're actually like adding the dice here and moving cubes around. And if you have someone that really needs their hand to be held, whether they miss numbers here or there, they bump cubes around, or they're just not good at that type of upkeep, you'll find that the game slows down quite a bit as everyone around the table pauses or waits for them to actually finish up that resolve. I'd say it would probably extend by about 25 to 30 minutes per player, which could be a significant thing. That could be the decision between getting this to the table and not getting this to the table. For our group and for our play, we were able to just like literally pay attention when we needed, and then most of the game was spent just running and thriving off of our engine, which is very satisfying when you're doing it. But if you have to sit and you have to wait on someone else to finish up their turn, I'd say this maybe isn't occupying your mind quite as much.
For sure. Yeah.
So, cool. That's my overview. Those are my thoughts. That's a preview for Forges. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Swing over to the Kickstarter page. Give them some love. Give them some support. If you're excited about this, do what you should do with indie projects that are happening over on Kickstarter. Let them know in the comments. Ask them how you can help. Share the project with friends, family, other people that might enjoy this.
Absolutely.
Because we want to see more people win in this hobby. So, with that being said, whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing.
Get out and play some games.
We'll see you next time. And a 1. And a 2. And a 3, and a 4, and a 5, and a 6, and a 7, and an 8, and a 9.